All right. Hello, everybody. I'm Dr. Joe Kort, and welcome to Smart Sex, Smart Love, where talking about sex goes beyond the taboo and talking about love goes beyond the honeymoon. Today, my guest is Ray Aubel, a hypnotherapist, positivity coach, and the founder of Intuitive Mind Hypnosis. Ray specializes in helping people break free from anxiety, self-doubt, and deeply ingrained behavioral patterns by working directly with the subconscious mind. Much of Ray's work focuses on helping gay men who have spent years overthinking, second-guessing themselves, and trying to hold everything together on the outside while feeling anxious or disconnected on the inside. Through his work, Ray explores how early experiences, especially those shaped by shame, social conditioning, and identity, can wire patterns like people-pleasing, perfectionism, and hypervigilance into the nervous system. His approach is not about becoming someone new, but about helping people feel safe enough to be who they already are. Today we are going to be talking about early life experiences and how they shape identity, how subconscious patterns influence relationships and attraction, and how hypnosis can be used as a tool to rewire those patterns and create real, lasting change. Welcome, Ray.
Thanks, Joe. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm so happy to have you here. I love your videos. We'll be talking about those as well. He's on Instagram. He'll tell you how to find him, but that's how I found you. They're clear. They're teachable. I mean, I feel like you're doing such a great job. The pace is really good. So, anyways, I'm glad that you agreed to come on the podcast.
Well, thank you so much. Honestly, it's a pleasure to be here, Joe. For real.
All right. Thank you. All right. So let's get into the questions.
Okay.
Tell me a little bit about you and tell the audience about you and what you got you into this work, into the hypnosis specifically.
Well, I sort of went through a depression during COVID, and I was a realtor back then, and I was, really struggling with being in the house, and I sort of went on my own journey with hypnosis after, years of being in and out of therapy, and I really felt that it really was that extra step that I sort of needed to get me there, and I sort of just wanted to change my life and help other people that were similar in similar situations to myself.
That's really great. I have had some hypnosis training, but not a lot. Nothing. I mean, not just enough to understand it. So that people probably who don't understand it, can you explain just how does it work?
It's nothing as woo-woo and as crazy as you see in the movies, right?
Right.
But, it's really nothing that crazy. It's just sort of a quieting down of your sort of conscious, critical thinking, so you could sort of get to sort of deeper places. So that's basically what it is. Quieting down of the mind and getting directly to be able to work on the subconscious mind.
And then specifically, how does hypnosis do that? Because there's mindfulness, right? There's all these different other interventions. What does hypnosis specifically do?
You can have similar results. I mean, it could be similar to, like, envisioning, imagining, that kind of stuff. But it's really like you go through this process. The first part of the session is called the induction. Okay? That gets you into a relaxed, calm, peaceful sort of place. And then the second part is working on the subject matter. Okay? It could be tons of different things that you want to work on. You want to work on people-pleasing, self-sabotaging behaviors. You want to work on your anxiety. I have a whole course that I do that really focuses on the first part is sort of dealing with the issue side of it, and then the second part of the course is sort of on a more positive note, like where do we want to go after we've sort of dealt with the issue side of it.
Wow. All right. And how does it shift something that has been ingrained for years?
Okay. Patterns are patterns because we keep doing them over and over again. When you actively take steps to change a pattern, it starts developing new pathways in the mind, in the brain, and even in the body. When we start doing something over and over again, that starts to become the new pattern. So there's a lot of patterning work that we're doing as well as the hypnosis sessions, and there's stuff that you have to do, practice, daily to make that the new pattern. Okay.
Yeah. Help me understand this, if you would. I'm just thinking about people that are skeptical. I used to be.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly, because I know it can be helpful, especially with smoking. I remember when I was getting training, they said that's the most success, right, in helping
Yes.
people stop.
Yes, that's what it's most widely known for. Is
But what about Mike and my husband and I were on a cruise, and there was this hypnotist. He was an entertainer, and he'd bring people up from the audience, and he would hypnotize them on stage, like there'd be 10 of them or whatever. And they would, whatever he would do, we were watching him, and then
Yeah.
suddenly they'd be hypnotized, and you would think, are they lying? Are they acting? And what would you say to that? Have you seen those kind of shows?
I have, and you know what? Like, it's hard for me to really say. I don't really engage in like stage hypnosis or anything like that, but it really is. It's sort of an expectancy that you have. It's almost like if you believe that someone is going to help you or guide you, or it's the belief that this person is capable of doing it, and it's more that you're allowing this process to happen than someone actually doing something to you. So it's fun, it's exciting, people want to go along with it. That's what I believe is how the stage hypnosis mainly works. But again, I don't really know personally because I don't do stage hypnosis. So
Got it. No, okay. I just always wondered if there was, is it similar? So you don't know, but like, so let's say I come in and I want to change something about myself, my eating habits, so I lose weight or something. What would happen? I'd sit down for that first appointment, and what would you do?
well, I have the first session is an anchoring session and a pattern interrupt. Okay, so you can be used for weight loss. It could be used for any kind of negative thoughts that are entering your headspace. Okay, so let's just go with I'm not enough. Right, that's a popular one. I'm not handsome enough, rich enough, whatever enough. Right. We're going to, whenever you have a negative thought, we're going to do something. First, we do the session, and we link a feeling of calmness, okay? We all have a well of calmness inside of us somewhere, okay? And so we're just really reconnecting with that. And I call it your calm control, because it really is a form of control when you're able to sort of self-regulate, okay? And so we're building that muscle, or we're building new neural pathways in the brain doing this, okay? So we do the session, we link a feeling of calmness. Now, you're going to practice that for the entire 6 weeks, because it takes 6 weeks to build a habit, okay? So we're going to, whenever we have the negative thought that we don't want, whether it's wanting to eat, in your case, if you want to lose weight, we're going to say, we're going to pattern interrupt, we're going to take a few deep breaths, we're going to connect with our inner well of calm, and we're going to give ourselves the opposite of whatever that negative thought is. Okay? And the idea here is to, after 6 weeks, this becomes a habit now. You almost automatically are doing these things after forcing yourself to do it for a certain amount of time. Okay? So that becomes the new pattern. Now that's really the first session. Should I get into all of the sessions now?
Please, I'd love it. Yes, yes.
Okay, so that's the first session, anchoring and pattern interrupt. It's something for you to use in the moment when you're feeling anything negative that you don't want, okay? The second session now is an age regression session. This is another thing that is well known. You've heard of past life regression? When you visit past lives, this is age regression. So we're visiting moments in your childhood, events in your past that are contributing to whatever the current issue or problems are. Okay. And so really just visiting and revisiting and going over these moments, it's really like cathartic to the subconscious mind, and it allows you to release and let go from things that are deeply ingrained in this sort of like other kind of way that you don't really have. When you're doing this subconsciously, it just sort of, it's hard to explain fully how it works. It just sort of works. And that takes us to the third session, which is the releasing, an actual releasing and letting go session. So you get some of the benefit just from getting to the root of it. So we usually visit 3 events in your past that are contributing. the earliest event is the root, and then the other two events are contributing factors, like whatever negative thing that you learned about yourself that, by the way, is not true. There were contributing moments, and these are moments that sort of stick out in your mind. And what's beautiful about this is, I'm not diagnosing you. This information is coming from your subconscious mind. So it's so powerful when the answers are really within, right?
Yes.
And so the first part of that is gaining that awareness, okay? When you gain that awareness, if you're not aware of where things started and what the problem really is, how can you really fully fight back at it, So that's I went back a little. But so the third session is the releasing and letting go session. And in that session, you're going to release and let go from everything that came up in the regression, as well as anything that we're holding on to, any negative space we're holding on to. We're going to sort of just release and let go from it. And I'll tell you, people feel like they've dropped a bag of bricks. Okay. It's very heavy. It feels very heavy to move through life when there's a lot of mental baggage weighing you down. So, when you let go through this process, and the subconscious works in metaphor. Just look at your dreams. Your dreams don't make sense, but if you analyze them, and that's another session that you can do dream analysis sessions where we analyze a recurring dream. Your dreams are sort of your subconscious trying to reach out to you and tell you something from deep within.
I love that. Wait, I want to repeat that. That's so good. Your dreams are trying to reach out to you and tell you about something within. That's really well said.
Yeah. Thank you. So those are the 3 sessions, dealing with the issue side of it. The next 3 sessions are more sort of empowering and positive. We can work on certain behavioral patterns, such as people-pleasing and self-sabotage, but most of them are more focused on the positive part. Like we can work on confidence, self-trust, self-esteem, self-acceptance. Put self in front of a word and something positive after it. We can work on all of those things, okay? I also do sessions that do get a little bit woo-woo, like connecting to inner guidance and, trusting the spirit within, or connecting to higher self. And the second set of 3 sessions, really you can design them exactly how you want them. Whatever you're needing in the moment, I will make a session specifically towards your needs for those last 3 sessions. Okay, you could tell me, Ray, I feel this way and that way and blah 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 blah, and I'll make a session specifically just tailored to your needs in the moment. So those are the 6 sessions. In addition to the 6 sessions, I also keep in touch with you like a coach through email or through the Instagram chat, because I meet a lot of clients through Instagram. And I want to know how you're doing after the session. Is anything still coming up? Did you have a fight with someone at work? Is your partner upset at you? I'm sort of there to sort of hold your hand through this 6-week process, okay? And to ask my advice and whatever, talk about things that you want to talk about. The next thing that you get is a audio track, which is a self-hypnosis, which is all about picturing a future version of yourself. Okay? The idea is that we have to have a positive version of where we want to move towards. Otherwise, what the hell are we doing? Right? So every single night, and I like people to listen to it before bed, because normally us overthinkers and over analytical minds at nighttime, that's when we do our best work, right? So we want to refocus that energy to the positive that we want to bring into our future and have it right in the forefront of our minds, like every single day. And the idea with that is to practice it every day for the 6 weeks, and to now, when your head hits the pillow, you start naturally thinking, boy, what do I want to bring into my life in the future that's positive? And that becomes your new default setting, okay? And then the last thing is I like to keep an open line of communication with my clients. So as an aftercare plan, I still will respond to 3 messages a month. And that's basically the whole program.
That's so helpful to understand the arc. But like, so now it so much sounds like therapy or even like another kind of EMDR, like what I do.
Yeah.
But do you have them close their eyes? Are they in an altered state? Like what happens?
Yeah, they definitely do their eyes closed.
Hmm.
I believe that, and I question actually therapy, traditional therapy forms that they're not done sometimes with the eyes closed. Because when our eyes are open, we're interpreting everything we're seeing. I see your microphone, your glasses, your hair, your this, your that, and we're making judgments. It Closing your eyes shuts that all down,
Hmm.
right? And
Hmm.
we can get to deeper places with the eyes closed. Sorry. Um, and so, we do it with the eyes closed. We get into a relaxed state, and then it's almost like it's the closest thing I know to magic,
Hmm.
honestly. And it sort of works. It just sort of works.
So there's nothing you do that make them like a breathing technique or some kind of a, how you
Um,
see on TV, they're snapping. Okay, now you are hypnotized. It's not like that.
yeah, no, it's not like that. That's
Yeah.
again, that's like stage hypnosis stuff where
Right.
it's immediately, oh, they shake the hand and they pull it, and the people are like,
Right. I
I
just
don't.
want people to hear that it's not like that, right?
Right. No, it's not like that at all. It's like coaching. It's like coaching, and I call myself a positivity coach, and I use hypnosis or hypnotherapy as my modality for change.
Hmm.
Yeah.
No, I think that's great. And I know that you also focus a lot of your work with gay men. And I wondered what made you decide to do that. Was there something particular about the population that you thought there's an interest here and I want to meet that interest?
Absolutely. I first of all, I think that having perspective is so important when you're working with people, and for me to be the best person to work with another person that's gay that gets. I feel like that was so important, and I see so many gay people struggling. I grew up in Long Island, 20 minutes from New York City, so I was always in and out of the city. Then I moved there when I was old enough to, and fortunately, that is like a mecca for gay people. So I've
Hmm.
been able to see so many people throughout the years, and I have friendships for 20 plus years, and I see all the things that we struggle as a population, gay men. And it's not just gay men. I really, the whole LGBTQ plus community, I really try to work with. I just, I find that I don't try to pretend I know what a trans person's experience is, so I can really only speak to a gay man's experience. So that's why my main focus is with gay men. But I
Hmm.
really try to work with the entire LGBTQ plus community.
I think about this only because of the Supreme Court, overturning the ban on conversion therapy, right? Do you
Yes.
ever have somebody come to you and say, I really want to use hypnosis to help me not be gay? Have you ever had something like that?
Um, I have, and I tell them that I can't because, you can't change who you really are. You can't and even if part of you wants to be hidden, there is another part of you inside that is, just dying to come out,
Hmm.
and so I wouldn't want to. I feel like that's counterintuitive, and I wouldn't work with someone like that. And in fact, I won't work with if you can't see a positive version of yourself, then I really can't work with you because you have to be able to see it. If you can't see where you want to go, I can't guide you towards nothing, you know?
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
can't guide you towards what you can't see. So I would implore, like if I met with someone and they were like, well, boy, I really can't see where I want to go to. I would say, well, take some time and think about that. And then maybe we'll talk again, when you have a more clear vision or version of where you want to move towards,
Hmm. I like what you're saying. And I know that if somebody came in, if we stay on this whole conversion therapy thing, only because it's up right now with the ban overturned, but they might say, well, my positive version of myself is that I'm straight, and
Mm,
we have zero research. All of the research shows, and when
mm,
we say zero results are that you can't turn somebody straight. They all have 100% recidivism rates. But they might say that to you, right? They might say, well, my vision is to be heterosexual.
right. Well, I would just say that, you could find another hypnotherapist that would do that, but
Uh-huh.
I'm not doing it.
Right, right, right. And it's unethical, right? So we'd say that too. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so now I found you because you work with gay men, but you were talking about the model that I developed in the '80s called covert cultural sexual abuse, and
Mhm.
I was like, oh my god! And I think you reached out to me. You wanted to know the
did.
journal articles I'd written in, and
Yeah.
and I continued to write about it in my own books. I didn't continue in journal articles because it wasn't really being picked up. Therapists would understand it when I would teach it, but then it would just sort of die off. And then you came along and you were like, oh my God, I totally get this. So tell me what I meant about it. Not that gay people have been sexually abused, but the over sexualization of children. The over sexualization of what it means to be gay. When somebody hears that I'm gay, they don't hear gay. They hear sex. They hear adult sex.
Right.
And if they're a man, they usually hear a man over, let's say, 45, belt buckles to the floor, let's get busy. They don't hear that I'm just telling you who I am in terms of my identity. So
Right.
that's where I came up with that term and the whole model. But tell me what resonated for you about it.
Well, you know, I read your book, and it was like this is what I've been talking about. This is what I've been working on with clients, and this guy Joe Kort put a name to it. Why isn't this out in the world? This needs to be, awareness needs to be brought to this topic, because it's just like, gay kids are just left to figure it out on their own.
I know.
And that is a form of abuse. You grow up thinking that you're the only one that's this way and something's wrong with you and you're bad. And then when you start hearing things in the ether, whether they're said directly to you or about other people who are gay, you start connecting dots. Well, I better not be that thing that everybody hates, And yeah, I get it that these religious people who are doing conversion therapy aren't going to tell their kids about gay people when they're children. But even progressive people do not tell generally speaking, of course, do not really tell their children that gay people exist. It's, we're 10% of the population. What if we decided to say, oh, you know what, there's no left-handed people, okay? And if you're using your left hand, and it was at one point. Left-handedness was very frowned upon.
Yes, they would try to make you right-handed. Yeah.
And this is like a natural, and this is something that's in over 1,500 plus species exhibit homosexual behaviors, So this is not something that's like out of nowhere,
Right.
And throughout history, there have been all these gay characters throughout history. It's almost like in this last century, the one that passed, is that it's become this huge issue, So, yeah.
Well, I came up with it because I was seeing so many people that were sexually abused, and then I would see all these LGBT people who weren't, but they exhibited the same symptoms. They felt like they were carrying a sexual secret. I always say, I'm a gay guy, but if I never have sex with another man for the rest of my life, I'm still a gay guy. And they would have, the imposter syndrome and short relationships, over-sexualizing, repressing. All the symptoms were there.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, you've had people say online, and I've had it said to me, well, you're saying gay people have been sexually abused. No, I am saying, though, that there's a sexual trauma and there's an over-sexualization that does impact us. And you're agreeing with that.
Absolutely. And this is what people are coming to me for, and they're naming it all different things. But if you would take an umbrella and put them all under it, they would all fit under this covert cultural sexual abuse umbrella.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm so glad that resonated for you. A lot of people think that oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think that if you're a therapist or a coach working with LGBTQ plus people and you don't know about this, you're really doing a disservice to these people. I think that your book should be literally like the Bible for caring for people who are LGBTQ plus. I mean,
Thank you. Let's make sure people don't think I paid you to say that, because I didn't.
No.
But I do think that, Bessel van der Kolk said something. He does a lot of trauma work and PTSD. And he said, if you don't understand how somebody's organized their lives around their trauma, then you're not going to be able to help them no matter what you do, because you've got to get in there and figure out how that happened to them and what they're doing. And you're seeing that.
Yes, absolutely. mind-boggling when, and so many of my clients, they feel like they're the only person that feels this way. And it's because we're all quiet about it.
Yes.
Nobody's talking about how terrible it really was being a completely different person inside than what you were putting out, That creates, you're living out of your authenticity. You're living out of integrity, and then all of a sudden one day you come out and everything is supposed to just fall into place. No, it doesn't, And go ahead.
I call that dust bunnies in the closet, right? So now they come out, but all the other crap that went in that closet. So how do you help people understand that with your clients?
Well, what we do is we go through that process. We give them something to use in the moment whenever negative thoughts are coming in to squash that. They practice it every day because a lot of it actually is, it's this pattern, right? We can intellectually understand what we're doing and why we need to change and do, but then we're back doing the same old behaviors. And because we need that subconscious repatterning and reconditioning in order to, get us to get to the goal part of it.
Yeah, that's good. You really build on people's strengths is what you're saying. You help them override their what they might perceive as a weakness and help them stay in their strength.
Yeah. What's funny too? Sometimes people are like, boy, this hypervigilance and, scanning and all this has really helped me in business. And if I work on myself this way, am I going to lose my advantage? Some people consider it a superpower.
Yeah. What do you say to people? That's a great question.
I say, absolutely not. You are still going to be able to use this for positive reasons. But how it's negatively affecting you, you're going to drop that.
Yeah.
You're not just all of a sudden going to, forget, these things that have helped you in life. They're part of your skill set now, even though they're born out of a lot of trauma and negativity.
Because really what you're doing is helping it not interfere with their life. So if it works at work, it's going to keep working. But if it's interfering in another part, that's going to go away.
Absolutely.
Right. I love that. What else?
Better myself, honestly.
I just took it from what you said. What else, before we come to an end, what would you like people to know about you? Like anything we didn't talk about that you're like, this one thing would be important.
Just like, I was very much like the people that I help right now. And, I felt very alone in feeling that way. And I really feel that bringing awareness to this and, putting it on social media, the comments are just, thank you so much for bringing this. This is how I felt for years, and I've never expressed it to people. The closest people to you, if they're straight, most of the time you don't talk about it. You don't want to be a burden. You don't want to be looked down upon like, something's wrong with me and I'm this hurt person who's experienced trauma. I get a lot of comments also from people that, oh, you're whining. Other gay men telling me I'm whining about this. I'm trying to connect with people who are having trauma so I could help them.
Yes, I know.
I'm not whining about this.
Right.
Anyway.
That's just
happy.
You can't, and that's their projection of how they felt about themselves and their whatever. But it's not about you. You're doing great work. I love to watch your videos. Every time I see one, I stop, and you're like a really good teacher. You've got like things to visuals, as you count down the 5 top things or whatever. And yeah, I love it. I'm just watching, and it's just very clear and direct. And I'm glad to have found you, and glad that you came on my podcast.
Well, gosh, I'm in awe of that. All I did was read your book and message you about like how wonderful it was, and then this, weeks later, months later now, I guess, and I'm here on your podcast. So thank you so much. I'm really honored and privileged to be here. For real.
Same to have you on. Tell people how they can find you.
Ray.Aubel, Aubel, at Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok.
All right. And when we post this, we'll make sure that we put those links to you as well.
Great. Perfect.
All right, thank you. And
right.
Ray, it was such a pleasure to have you on my show. And those of you that are watching, you can always hear more of my podcasts if you go to smartsexsmartlove.com. But you can also follow me on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. And my handle is at Dr. Joe Kort, DrJoeKort. Thanks for listening. And until next time, stay safe and stay healthy. All right.